Hello and welcome. This is a Fierce Penguin here, and there is mega hype going on today. You see, The Taken King, I'm sure you've heard of it, maybe you haven't. It's coming out on September 15th, and time is thin. Today was a big event. Bungie, they come on Twitch. For an hour, they told us a little bit about the ins and outs of what's going on in this game. So, here we have it. Let's get started. There's a lot to talk about. The vault space. Space that you guys have been probably hoarding all those weapons, so your space is probably running quite thin. Well, they finally responded. A couple things that we're going to talk about are going to make it seem even sweeter, but the short of the story is you're going to have double the space for your weapons, a little bit more than double for the gear, and the items. Although the inventory is not expanding for those, it won't make so much of a difference in the end. So now, first, character levels. That's probably the most important thing to note. They went from, max of 20 now in terms of experience, but now they'll be bumped up to 40. So that's quite the increase. It's going to take new players some time, but the experience-based experience will allow for players to not be ever hindered by lack of gear or anything like that. You see, it's going to be very difficult for some players in the modern era, first year of Destiny, where players at level 29, they're stuck waiting for that one piece of gear. Finally, the update comes out. Okay, now everyone's 32, and it's like you're still waiting to hit that. You're always waiting for that, those boots to level up and max out. So that's not going to be an issue. Max level will be experience-based as a cap of 40. That's going to be important to note. Most of the Taken King activities will start at level 25. So, in fact, there will be an item. I believe it's going to be called the Spark. What is it? Yeah, the Spark of Light. So that will be something that will allow you to instantly have one character to level 25. Something to note for veteran players, if you have 3 characters, 2 characters, whatever. If you are more interested in, say, getting that third subclass, because 3 subclasses are confirmed in the Taken King for quite some time now. If you want to level that class up quickly, I suggest you wait and use that for that. So this way you can get your subclasses leveled up and ready to go. Now, the light system, it's not going away, but it is transitioning. Light will no longer appear on the gear, but rather it will appear as a stat. So in the top where it says right here 33, instead you'll see a number probably between 180 and say 280, and this is going to be important. Your weapons will have attack stats closer to 200, and your defense will also be much different. You'll see that the items are also closer to that 180 range, depending on, actually I believe it was 90 that they were closer to. So either way, the formula is going to be attack over here divided by defense over here. And so the stat will appear as a number. Instead of 33, it'll be a higher number right here. And that will not affect your level. So you could still be a level 40 or level 30 or level somewhere in between, 20, whatever. But this number will be determined by your gear still. So while you will be able to reach level 40, certain endgame, raids and such will still require high light requirements to have a chance of actually completing these without either insane amount of deaths in time for waiting for that perfect run, or realistically, I'd imagine some of them are not possible without getting that light level up. So light is always an important thing. The important thing is that this will reduce that big gap. So players won't be stuck on a hurdle like that anymore. But at the same time, you will still need to, to be able to get through these things. You'll have to grow your character over time, which is what they want. They want you to have more guaranteed rewards, which is something very important. Talking about people having a very RNG experience, well, they are in fact removing some of that out of the game here. So that's going to be exciting to see. People can actually have these quests where you work towards a goal per se, and you can know at the beginning of the quest line whether you're going for a heavy weapon or for some gear or whatever it is that you need at that given moment. So each character can be a little more fine-tuned, and I'm excited for that. People won't be wasting as much time per se if you are just playing it to get, leveled up as quickly as possible. They're making that a little bit easier, or at least there's a couple more paths, whether you're a PvP player, whether you're a PvE player. There's a lot of things that are very interesting. The tower is basically a new wonderland of joy to play with, and it's going to be a lot of fun hopping around there. So the intellect right now, the intellect, the strength, and the discipline, which affects the rate you can punch at, the cooldown, and your grenades. So that the activation time between them. If I throw a grenade, you can see the bar on the left starting to recharge. Now it's going to take some time for that to actually occur. It's important that the time for that is more well known and pronounced to us, because just looking at that bar, we don't really know. Like, someone would have to actually time it, but then depending on what intellect or discipline you have, it's going to be different rates. So in the end, the percent, although informative, requires a little bit more work on the player's part to actually figure out how much time it takes for those things to reappear or reactivate. So the way that they are going to combat this is, instead of showing a percent, they will now have thresholds which certain intellect barriers will impede. And once you impasse that point, you will actually have a bar that shows you how many seconds. So say the first tier is 15 seconds, third tier would be 40 seconds, and then maybe as close to a minute or less before another activation. These are things that are important, and being more accessible to the player will be able to make more informed decisions, and perhaps actually understand more what you need and what you like to back it, rather than being, I think that 70% or this and that and 50, because sometimes the balance between the two is hard to actually figure out which you want and what you would prefer. Bounties. The interface is changing for bounties very much. If you want, well, first of all, you can now hold 16, so that's a lot more. That's very good. You're not going to have to go back to the tower. Oh, did I say that? Yes, you are not going to have to go back to the tower. So you're not going to have to go back to the tower, which is very good. I said it 3 times now. You can turn the quests in right on screen. You hit back, you'll see the progress of them. This is why we're going to go to orbit here. On the right hand side where the ghost is, there's going to be a little HUD for you guys to take a look at what's going on. So that is going to be very helpful for tracking progress, or just trying to actually handing quests in a timely manner without having to go all the way out of your way. That's always a pain, especially when you end up just needing to level up that thing a little bit more, and now you're stuck like waiting in a lobby just for this one quest, and you have to cut the effort. So that will be gone, hopefully. A thing of the past. Ghost shells. Now, people have been talking about ghost shells coming into place to some extent for a long time now, and I'm very excited that they're finally going to be some sort of implementation of this. More glimmer, more item farming, spirit rooms, healing, etc. Easier to find. You get more of them just from playing, from what I understand, and that's for just equipping a ghost shell. So that's pretty interesting for now. Extra glimmer sounds very interesting. Maybe there'll be things like extra marks. Legendary marks. Ooh, and legendary marks we haven't really spoken about at all. So legendary marks, they will be replacing Vanguard marks and Crucible marks, and they will be the entirety of what you use in the Taken King. Anything that you have right now will turn into a commendation, so don't throw them out. They will be useful. That'll help you level up, anything you want realistically day one. Oh gosh, don't go. So that basically will make you and Taken King have a front little advantage there if you have a bunch of stuff saved up. So definitely keep those handy. Of course, the Warlock Bond, Titan Works, and the Hunter Cape, all 3 of those will be also coming into play with some sort of bonus. They could increase various stats like gun reload speed, so they're actually quite useful. you have to choose between this and that. Bungie doesn't want you to ever have the perfect build, it seems. You have to get one, you know, separate thing, I suppose. Wrapping up this final one. So then perhaps the most important feature that they're coming into play, which is what makes Vault Space even more, you know, amazing here, is the fact that we are having a collection, basically, like, how do I phrase this? It's like a little emblem shader and weapon gear vault, basically, for exotic weapons, exotic gear that you've already gotten, any shaders that you've gotten, any emblems that you've gotten, any ships that you've gotten. All of those things will be put together. They will be there waiting for you to go and reclaim them if you've already gotten them once. So the days of deleting a weapon and you know, never seeing it again, gone. You can go right back. If you delete your Gallahorn, go back, get a new one, have a fresh Gallahorn, have a good day. If you've never gotten a Gallahorn, you're still not going to be able to buy it. So, sorry about that. The good news is, because of this system, anything that you've already checked off, which is, if this counts for all 3 of your characters, any of these that you've already checked off, you will now not be able to get these things in loot pools. So that basically means that the chance of pulling an exotic when you have an exotic pull is that it's basically guaranteed to be an exotic that you don't have, which drastically will reduce the amount of playing time that it takes to get every single exotic, especially in an RNG sense. There still is that, you know, there still is the understanding that if you do it enough times, you have to get it. So as many times as you get the exotic, you will be able to get the new exotic that you don't have, as opposed to continuously running into the cycle of 16 other or 20 other exotics, which further increases the, you know, the ridiculousness of actually pulling that one weapon that you need. So that's very exciting as well. I assume it will apply to gear as well as shaders. They said it would apply to as well. So if you're in a faction looking for those rare shaders, well, it just got a little bit easier. You'll never pull a duplicate, so you don't have to worry about that. And it's going to be a lot easier going forward. This will reduce the clutter in the inventories. It's going to be basically, that's why the gear or the item inventory in the vault not increasing is not that big of a deal. And that is because with all of these things, I bet you your item inventory is filled with a bunch of emblems and ships or random things that you could probably remove. And talk about all those weapons, the exotics that you have unleveled and you don't want to use them. Well, maybe now you could consider actually removing them so you have even more space, because if you really ever wanted that gun, you know, you could go ahead and, you know, unlock it and go ahead and rebuy it, because once you found it, they're not going to take it away from you. So that's quite the important thing there. It's what makes the vault's size, even though it's only doubled, it's going to feel as if it's tripled, in my opinion. So I'm excited to see that. Now, they did talk a little bit about subclasses. I know we've already been told a decent amount about them, but not really in regards to where we have to go, because they haven't, you know, we know the Dreadnought exists, but, you know, there's obviously going to be some missions elsewhere. They're talking about the Cabal in the next Twitch update for the Bungie in a week from now, so that's exciting. Maybe more news will come there. But for now, what we know is that quests, these quests that we've been talking about, quests are essentially a new additional thing, similar to going to Petra or going to any of the in-game, you know, non-playable characters, the NPCs such as Eris Morn, you know, for the Crota and all that stuff. You know, these characters will offer you the ability to go do missions for them, or to go do a strike, go complete this strike with whatever modifier, or go do, you know, go ahead and complete a bounty for them. And if you do these things, that's where you can get these definite rewards. And each class, so that the Titan, the Hunter, and the Warlock, they will each have their own quest line specific to their own class, and it's only through completing those quest lines that you obtain your subclass. So quests will be very important, not just to get you the heavy weapon that you need, to get you that armor piece that you need, or maybe just, you know, some extra little oomph in terms of materials, or maybe a roll at an exotic. Who knows? All these things will be possible, but you have to just start working at it there. And, you know, it's these quests are very important, and I think that getting this, it's a nice little fun way for them to help us get these third subclasses, because I guess if they just gave it to us, you know, maybe that'd feel a little boring. They want you to work for everything, so let's we're dead. So yeah, let's get there and let's get going. What else is there? Let's see. Alright, Crucible, factions. Okay, so let's talk about factions.
Find the Wakers. Stop
From
them.
now on, when you go to a faction, you have to accept an allegiance, which can only be changed once every week. And that means you accept, you know, you can go to one place and buy all the weapons from them, and your ranks are your ranks that carry over if you've had a rank with them, so you don't have to worry about that. Legendary marks will be how you buy stuff from them, but the best part is when you go and do a strike with your allegiance, so you have an allegiance to some place, it will allow you to get experience for both that activity and the faction. So it's no longer if you have a band on. Right now, if you have a band or a bond for a warlock, you know, or a cape for a hunter, etc., you actually get only experience for the faction. But in this case, going forward from the Taken King on, it will count for both, which is very exciting. Because now finally you'll be able to get things done in half the time in that sense. I also mentioned that legendary marks will be replacing Vanguard marks and Crucible marks, and you will be limited to 200 in your inventory at one time. You will no longer be limited to getting 200 in a week. So there's a never-ending possibility, basically. You can buy whatever you want if you can put the hours in, and you just have to remember that you won't get any coins after you hit 200, so you have to spend coins and basically never be at 200 if you want to continue to get more of them, which is understandable. And that brings me to the saying that everything that you have is useful, because anything you pull, whether it, you know, whatever it is, will break down and basically give you these marks if it's a legendary gun or something that you didn't need that was extra. So basically, when you find something in a game, and it might not be the exact thing you're looking for, but maybe it can actually help you, because now you can actually use it to help get something that you also wanted, you know, in the shop. Whatever the case may be, you have to keep your eyes open. There's a lot more out there in the Taken King that could be useful here, especially with the weapon rebalancing. You know, a lot of guns are going to be more useful in more situations. Especially auto rifles will feel usable again, I'm sure. That's what everyone's talking about. Maybe they'll be overpowered, maybe they won't, but they will probably be usable again, and that's very exciting. The Suros will probably have its return, especially with the extra buff that they gave it. Suros is getting a Suros V2, as are most of the exotics are getting a Taken King update. So they now basically have their best perk up front, and that's a crazy thing to think. Yes, instead of having to level up, you can get it instantly, which is very, very good to know, and very, very interesting. However, you will then have to unlock some of the other perks and some of the other things that, you know, make the weapon, you know, insanely perfect as an exotic. You know, like Last Word is great with its first perk and everything, but without that stability, even with the Last Word perk, but without the perfect balance, a lot of people, you know, do not like it as much. At least that's my personal opinion there. So that is definitely interesting to see how the major perks are coming up front, which will definitely make the weapon easier to try out and more exciting to get initially. Because the Invective, you know, let's say it doesn't recharge bullets right now, right? So that's very sad for me. But I could have that perk instantly when the Taken King comes out, and that's very exciting as well. Okay, let's just see what's here. We gotta blow some guys out real quick. Probably die because these guys are scary. good. Well, that's good. Okay, what else did we miss? Exotics, blueprints. That's going to be a good thing. All ranks for him. It's there. So I'm trying to look at this list at the same time here. Shell's cool. No, there's one more paper here. Oh, you're right. So Lord Shocks is going to have mechanics added to him, where he will now offer, basically, I believe it's basically a quest thing we call it. For now, we can just call it a bunch of bounties. Those will essentially guarantee you a Nightfall reward if you complete all of his a Nightfall tier reward. So that's very exciting for PvP players who don't necessarily feel like they're up to doing a Nightfall that week, or whatever the case is. Some PvP players just like the matchmaking side, so this is going to cater to them while giving them a chance to get exotics or other things of that sort, which is very exciting. Besides that, I think personally I'm the most excited for the collections of all the weapons and seeing the Year 2 exotics. There also appeared to be over 20 new exotic weapons. That's very exciting to see as well. Gallahorn Year 1 version is getting carried over. It doesn't look like Gallahorn 2 is coming over, so that might be the end of the reign for the Gallahorn. It'll be exciting to see the changes that come. I'm pretty excited about it. I don't know how you couldn't be excited about it if you are a Destiny person here. This BTR is just so nice. Just that's a match. Okay, you can't die here. Oh, and I died. Well, I guess that's a good point to end it. Thanks for watching. A Fierce Penguin here. Take care. Good luck, guys. Get ready. 9:15. It's coming.